Have you ever left a conversation replaying every word you said, worrying about how you were perceived, and feeling that familiar knot of social anxiety tightening in your chest? This relentless need for approval, this fear of saying the wrong thing or not being impressive enough, is a modern plague. We're taught that social confidence is about having the perfect comeback, the most captivating stories, or the most charismatic personality. We perform, we polish our online personas, and we seek constant validation from the outside world. But what if everything we've been told about social confidence is backwards? What if the secret isn't about adding more to your social arsenal, but about returning to a profound and ancient wisdom that builds from the inside out? The ancient Stoic philosopher Epictetus offered a radically different starting point nearly 2,000 years ago when he said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." And he added, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." This is the cornerstone of a truly different kind of influence, one that isn't fragile or dependent on the applause of others. This journey we're beginning today isn't about learning clever psychological tricks or memorizing a script for small talk. This is about something far more permanent and powerful, the cultivation of an unshakable inner character. It's about building a foundation of self-worth so solid that the shifting opinions of others simply cannot topple it. This is the Stoic path to genuine confidence, a path walked by Roman emperors, enslaved philosophers, and timeless thinkers who understood that the only arena that truly matters is the one within your own mind. When your sense of value comes from living in alignment with your virtues, with courage, justice, wisdom, and self-discipline, you stop performing for an audience and start engaging with the world from a place of authentic strength. The anxiety that comes from seeking external validation begins to dissolve because you are no longer outsourcing your self-esteem to people and situations you cannot control. In this video, we will explore 21 subtle, often completely overlooked behaviors that quietly redefine social confidence and influence. These are not grand, dramatic gestures, but the small, daily disciplines of thought and action that, when practiced consistently, forge a presence that is both calm and compelling. We will move beyond the surface-level advice and delve into the practical applications of Stoic philosophy for your everyday interactions. From the power of intentional silence to the grace of letting others be right, from the discipline of non-reactivity to the practice of radical acceptance, each of these 21 points is a stepping stone on the path to a more resilient, influential, and genuinely confident you. So, if you're ready to discover a way of engaging with others that is rooted not in fear, but in profound self-possession, then you are in the right place. Let's begin this exploration together. We often assume that the most confident person in the room is the one doing all the talking, the one with a quick opinion on everything and a story for every occasion. We feel a pressure to fill every silence, to prove our worth through a constant stream of words. But what if that very impulse is a sign of insecurity, not confidence? The Stoics offer a powerful counterintuitive practice, the art of intentional silence. This isn't about being shy, passive, or disengaged, far from it. This is about a disciplined, active choice to listen more than you speak. It is a strategic withdrawal from the performance of conversation in order to truly understand the landscape of the interaction. Think of it as gathering intelligence before deploying your forces. When you are busy formulating what you're going to say next, you are only half listening, and you are entirely focused on your own performance. You are trying to control how you are perceived, which, as the Stoics would remind us, is ultimately not within your full control. other people's opinions of you are their business, not yours. This practice is a direct application of the core Stoic dichotomy of control. Epictetus taught that the chief task in life is to distinguish between what is up to us and what is not. Our own judgments, impulses, and desires are within our control. The actions and opinions of others are not. When you choose intentional silence, you are shifting your focus squarely onto what is up to you, your ability to listen, to observe, to understand. You are focusing on comprehending the other person, which is a task you can directly influence, rather than on making them understand or admire you, which is an outcome you can never guarantee. This is why this practice is deeply tied to the Stoic virtue of wisdom. Wisdom isn't just about what you know, it's about knowing when to speak and when to absorb. It's about recognizing that you often learn more with your mouth closed. As Epictetus also said, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak. This isn't just a cute saying, it's a design principle for effective and virtuous communication. Consider a high-pressure business meeting where tensions are rising and everyone is jockeying for the floor. The instinct is to assert your presence, to make your point heard loudly and quickly. But imagine instead choosing to remain quiet for the first 10 minutes. You are not checked out, you are hyper-present. You are listening to the nuances of the arguments, observing the group dynamics, and noticing who is reacting to whom. You are gathering data. Then, when you do finally speak, your contribution is not just another opinion tossed into the fray. It is a synthesizing statement that acknowledges the key points raised by others and offers a more measured, thoughtful perspective. Your words carry more weight because they are not born of reactive impulse but of considered observation. You demonstrate a command of the entire situation, not just your own agenda. Your silence, in this case, becomes a source of immense power and influence because it is rooted in self-control. Now, bring this concept closer to home. Think back to a recent conversation you had, perhaps a minor disagreement with a partner or a discussion with a colleague. Can you recall a moment where you felt the urgent need to interrupt, to defend, or to explain? What if, in that moment, you had chosen silence, not a sullen or resentful silence, but an intentional, open one? What might you have heard that you missed? You might have understood the underlying concern behind their words, or you might have given yourself the space to realize that your initial reaction was misguided. The goal is not to win the conversation, but to understand it more fully. So, I invite you to reflect on that recent exchange. Where could a few more seconds of intentional silence have created more clarity, more connection, or a more effective outcome for everyone involved? This simple shift in focus, from being understood to understanding, is the first, foundational step toward a confidence that doesn't need to shout to be heard. Now picture yourself at a family gathering or in a team meeting at work. A controversial topic comes up, and suddenly the room is electric with tension. Voices rise, faces flush, and you can feel your own heart starting to pound as you get drawn into the emotional current. Your instinct is to pick a side, to defend your position, to win. This is the exact moment where conventional social advice fails us. It tells us to assert ourselves, to fight for our viewpoint. But Stoicism offers a far more powerful alternative, a kind of social superpower that is almost always overlooked, the ability to step back and become the observer. Instead of being a player swept up in the game, you can become the one who watches the game unfold with calm clarity. This is not about being aloof or disconnected. It is about achieving a level of engagement that is so secure it doesn't need to be emotionally entangled to be effective. It is the practice of creating a small space between the event and your internal reaction, a space where your reason can step in and your freedom can be exercised. This observer's mindset is the practical application of perhaps the most crucial Stoic psychological technique, the discipline of assent. The Stoics taught that we don't react to events themselves, but to our judgments about those events. An external event, like someone criticizing your work, is just an impression. It is a piece of data. Our minds instantly attach a judgment to that impression. This is an attack on my competence, or this person is trying to humiliate me. It is this judgment, this automatic, often unconscious interpretation, that causes the emotional tsunami of anger, defensiveness, or shame. The practice is to catch that initial impression before you automatically assent to it, to hold it up to the light of reason and to ask, is this necessarily true? You are not stopping yourself from feeling, you are choosing which judgments to validate, thereby determining which feelings are worth having. You are separating the raw data from the story you are telling yourself about it. This is how you move from being a puppet jerked around by external events and internal impulses to being the puppeteer who holds the strings. Marcus Aurelius, the emperor who constantly reminded himself of these principles, wrote in his private journal, "You can strip away many unnecessary troubles which lie wholly in your judgment. For you will make room for a happier life by occupying this spaciousness." And he frequently advised himself to rise above the pageant and not be swept away by the crowd. He was cultivating this exact observer's mindset from the throne of the Roman Empire. He knew that the crowd, whether it was a mob in the street or the collective anxiety in a council chamber, carries an emotional momentum that can overwhelm individual reason. By mentally stepping back and viewing the situation from a higher perspective, as if watching a play from the balcony, he could see the posturing, the fears, and the desires for what they were, transient human noises. This mental shift doesn't make you cold, it makes you clear-sighted. It allows you to see the person behind the angry words, the insecurity behind the boastful claim, and the irrelevance of most social posturing in the grand scheme of your life. Let's make this concrete with a scenario almost everyone faces, being the subject of gossip or unfair criticism. The initial impression is a sharp sting, a flush of heat. The automatic judgment is, they are wronging me, my reputation is being destroyed, I must confront them and set the record straight. Now, apply the observer's mindset. Step back, observe the event as if you were a scientist studying a social phenomenon. You have received information that person A said thing B about you to person C. That is the data. Now, apply reason. What are the possible motives behind person A's action? Perhaps they are insecure and cutting others down makes them feel taller. Maybe they misinterpreted something you said. Could it be that they are simply bored and generating drama for entertainment? Notice how, from this detached vantage point, the event starts to look different. It is no longer a personal asteroid crashing into your life, but a small, messy human interaction. Your reputation is not a fragile piece of glass. It is built over a lifetime of action, and one piece of gossip is a speck of dust on it. By observing it without immediately personalizing it, you drain it of its emotional power. You can then choose a response, if one is even needed, from a place of strategic calm rather than reactive panic. You might decide it's beneath your concern, or you might address it with a quiet, direct conversation that demonstrates your poise. To bring this home, take a moment to identify a recurring social trigger in your own life. Is it a particular relative who always knows how to push your buttons? A colleague who takes credit for your ideas? The feeling of being ignored in a group conversation? Now, I want you to try a simple mental exercise. The next time you feel that familiar surge of emotion starting, I want you to imagine yourself taking one literal step backwards in your mind. Create that space from this new vantage point. Simply observe. Watch the other person's body language. Listen to the tone of their voice as if you were a linguist studying its patterns. Observe your own physical reaction, the quickened breath, the tightened chest without judging it as good or bad. See the entire interaction as a scene in a movie. How does the dynamic look from here? Does the trigger seem as powerful as all-consuming? When you view the situation as a detached observer, you often find that the monster under the bed was just a shadow. This small shift in perspective is not a denial of your feelings. It is the master key that unlocks you from them, giving you the freedom to respond with a confidence that comes from choice, not from chaos. Social influence isn't about winning arguments, it's about not needing to. Think about that for a moment. In so many of our interactions, we operate under a hidden assumption that to be strong, to be respected, we must push back against every slight, correct every inaccuracy, and defend our territory from any perceived incursion. We believe that influence is seized through forceful rebuttals and sharp comebacks, but the Stoics unveil a far more profound truth. The ultimate demonstration of power is the quiet, unwavering choice not to be provoked in the first place. This is the discipline of non-reactivity, and it is the bedrock of an unshakable social presence. It's not that you don't feel the initial sting of a provocation or the heat of rising anger. It's that you recognize that spark for what it is, an automatic impression, and you consciously decide not to pour fuel on it. You master your inner citadel, that fortress of your mind, and you realize that no external event can breach its walls without your own consent. The person who can remain calm while others are losing their composure instantly commands the room, not through volume, but through a palpable sense of self-possession that others can feel. This entire practice is built upon the most liberating principle in Stoic philosophy: the absolute control we have over our own judgments and reactions. Everything else, what other people say, how they behave, the outcomes of our efforts, falls into the vast category of things not fully within our power. When someone directs unfair criticism or a personal insult your way, the event itself is an external. It is a thing that has happened, but your reaction, the internal narrative you spin, the emotional storm you weather, the words you choose to speak or withhold, that is 100% yours to govern. Preserving your inner peace, your equanimity, is therefore a victory that far outweighs the hollow, fleeting triumph of having the last word in a petty squabble. You are trading a momentary ego boost for the enduring strength of character that comes from knowing you are the master of your own soul. The Roman philosopher Seneca, who wrote extensively on the corrosive nature of anger, put it with stunning clarity: the best response to an insult is to not feel insulted. This is not a call to be a doormat or to suppress your feelings. It is an invitation to a radical re-evaluation. It asks you to examine the very mechanism of insult. An insult only has power if you grant it credibility, if you assent to the judgment that you have been wronged and must therefore retaliate. If you refuse to accept that judgment, if you see the insult for what it often is, the noisy expression of someone else's pain, ignorance, or poor character, then the barb simply cannot stick. It falls useless at your feet. Let's translate this into a situation you've almost certainly faced. Imagine you've just presented a project you've poured your heart into at work. A colleague, perhaps one known for being difficult or competitive, immediately raises their hand and delivers a critique that is not only harsh but fundamentally misrepresents your work and questions your competence in front of the entire team. The initial, raw impression is a sucker punch to the gut. Your face flushes, your heart hammers, every fiber of your being screams to fire back, to dismantle their argument point by point, to expose their pettiness and defend your honor. This is the crossroads. The path of reactivity is well trodden and leads directly into a messy, emotionally draining public conflict where everyone loses. The path of non-reactivity, the Stoic path, looks completely different. You take a deliberate breath, creating that crucial space between the provocation and your response. You meet their gaze not with hostility, but with a calm, almost curious demeanor. You might simply say, "Thank you for that feedback. I'll take it into consideration." Or if a more substantive response is required, you could say, "I hear your concerns. Let me clarify the data on that specific point." The power in this response is earth-shattering. You have not acknowledged the criticism as valid, but you have acknowledged their right to speak. You have not given away your emotional state. You have demonstrated that your self-worth is not contingent on their approval. The silent confidence in that moment is louder than any retort. You have shown everyone in the room, including yourself, that you cannot be easily knocked off balance. Now, I want you to bring this principle into your own life. Take a moment and identify one specific person or one recurring situation that consistently triggers a reactive response in you. It might be a family member who knows exactly which buttons to push. It could be a particular type of comment on social media, or perhaps it's the feeling of being interrupted or talked over in meetings. Once you have that trigger in mind, I want you to equip yourself with a single, simple Stoic phrase, a mental mantra you can deploy in that heated moment. It could be Seneca's wisdom, "The best response is to not feel insulted." It could be a reminder of the dichotomy of control. This is an external, my reaction is my own. It could be a question from Marcus Aurelius. Does what happened prevent you from being just, magnanimous, and self-controlled? Choose one phrase that resonates with you and commit it to memory. The next time you feel that familiar surge of reactive energy, your task is not to stop the feeling, but to insert this phrase into the space between the trigger and your action. This is the practical work of building your inner citadel, brick by brick. It is in these small, conscious choices that you forge a confidence that is immune to the chaos of the outside world. How much energy do you waste trying to change people who have no interest in changing? Think about the mental gymnastics, the carefully chosen words, the rising frustration when they inevitably act exactly as they always have. We approach so many of our relationships like sculptors, armed with chisels of advice and criticism, determined to chip away at the rough edges of others until they fit the image we have in mind for them. But this is a recipe for exhaustion and perpetual disappointment. The Stoic path offers a radical alternative, a profound shift in perspective that is both liberating and incredibly influential, the practice of radical acceptance of others. This isn't about approving of bad behavior or becoming a passive victim. It is about clearly seeing and accepting reality as it is, not as you wish it to be. It is the recognition that other people's character, their opinions, and their choices are firmly in the category of things not up to us. When you stop trying to control the uncontrollable, you reclaim an enormous amount of mental and emotional energy that was previously tied up in a futile struggle. This energy is then free to be redirected toward the one thing you can always control, your own judgments and responses. This practice is a direct and powerful application of the Stoic dichotomy of control. Your coworkers' chronic negativity, your parents' ingrained habits, your friends' unreliable nature, these are all externals. They are part of the unchangeable fabric of the world, as much as the weather or the traffic. To rage against them is as irrational as shaking your fist at a rain cloud. The moment you internally surrender the desire to reshape someone else, a fascinating transformation occurs in your interactions. The dynamic shifts from a battle of wills to a state of peaceful coexistence. You stop being a manipulator trying to steer their behavior and start being a person engaging with them as they actually are. This makes your presence far more genuine and trustworthy. People have an almost subconscious ability to detect when someone is trying to change them, and it puts them on the defensive. When that pressure vanishes, when they feel truly accepted, walls come down. Your influence doesn't come from changing them. It comes from the unwavering strength you demonstrate by refusing to be thrown off course by their nature. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself of this necessity. He wrote, "Accept the things to which fate binds you, and love the people with whom fate brings you together, but do so with all your heart." And he offered this crucial guidance for dealing with challenging individuals. When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, "The people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. They are like this because they cannot tell good from evil, but I have seen the beauty of good and the ugliness of evil, and have recognized that the wrongdoer has a nature related to my own. And so none of them can hurt me. No one can implicate me in ugliness, nor can I feel angry at my relative or hate him. This is the bedrock of radical acceptance." He prepares his mind to meet reality, not his fantasy. He sees the faults of others as a form of ignorance, a mistaken judgment about what is good, which allows him to respond with patience rather than personal outrage. Consider a scenario that will be familiar to many: the difficult family member. Let's say it's an uncle who turns every holiday dinner into a political debate, making sweeping, provocative statements designed to get a rise out of everyone. The old pattern is to engage, to argue, to try and use logic to show him the error of his ways. Year after year, this leads to the same result: raised blood pressure, a ruined meal, and a sense of resentment that lingers for days. Now apply radical acceptance. You internally acknowledge once and for all, "My uncle is a person who enjoys political provocation. This is his nature. It is not within my power to change this fundamental aspect of his character." This is not a defeatist thought, it is a strategic and empowering one. With this acceptance firmly in place, you enter the gathering with a completely different strategy. When he makes his signature provocative comment, you don't take the bait. You might simply say, "That's an interesting perspective, Uncle John," and then turn to your cousin and ask about their new job. You have not agreed with him. You have not endorsed his behavior. You have simply refused to play the game. You have accepted the reality of who he is and chosen a response that protects your own peace. The dynamic is utterly transformed. The power he held over your emotional state is gone. Your calm, non-reactive presence in the face of his provocation becomes a quiet, powerful lesson in self-possession for everyone at the table. Now bring this principle into your own life. I want you to think of one person you frequently find yourself trying to fix or change. It could be a partner you wish were more ambitious, a friend you wish were more reliable, or a colleague you wish were more considerate. Notice the tension that arises in you when they act in their typical, disappointing way. That tension is the energy cost of your non-acceptance. Now, for a moment, try on the mindset of radical acceptance. Imagine fully letting go of the desire for them to be different, not condoning their behavior, but simply ceasing to struggle against the fact of it. How does that feel? Does a weight lift? Does a sense of quiet power replace the feeling of frustrated struggle? Consider how your interactions with this person might change if you approach them from this place of acceptance. Instead of subtle hints and pointed suggestions, you might engage with them based on their actual capabilities, not your imagined version of them. You might find yourself setting clearer boundaries from a place of calm rather than control. The relationship, freed from the pressure of your expectations, might finally have the space to become something more authentic and less exhausting for both of you. Flattery is like social candy. It gives you a quick, sweet burst of approval, but it provides no real nourishment and can ultimately rot the foundation of trust. It creates a momentary illusion of connection, but it's built on the shaky ground of dishonesty. In stark contrast, offering substance, which means honest, constructive feedback and genuine, earned appreciation, is like serving a nourishing meal. It might not always taste sweet at first, but it builds strong, resilient bonds of respect that last a lifetime. The Stoics understood this distinction deeply. For them, the entire philosophical life was a pursuit of truth and virtue, and flattery was a direct enemy to that pursuit. It is a form of deceit that corrupts both the person giving it and the person receiving it. The flatterer diminishes their own character by engaging in falsehood, and they weaken the recipient by insulating them from reality and the opportunity for genuine improvement. Lasting influence isn't won by telling people what they want to hear. It is earned by having the courage to tell them what they need to hear when it serves their growth and the pursuit of a common good. This is how you build a reputation as someone of integrity, not just as a pleasant acquaintance. This behavior is firmly rooted in the Stoic commitment to the four cardinal virtues, particularly justice and courage. To be just in your interactions means to give others what they are truly due. Is a friend who is making a serious mistake due empty praise, or are they due a truthful observation that could help them correct their course? Is a colleague who has performed well due a generic, hollow compliment, or are they due specific, genuine recognition for their actual contribution? Justice demands that we offer the substance of honest engagement. This, of course, requires the virtue of courage, the courage to risk temporary discomfort, to risk being the bearer of unwelcome news, and to stand firm in your commitment to truth, even when it would be easier to simply smile and agree. The flatterer operates from a place of fear of conflict, fear of rejection, fear of not being liked. The person of substance operates from a place of courageous conviction, believing that the long-term benefits of truth and growth far outweigh the short-term appeal of false harmony. The Roman philosopher Seneca was scathing in his criticism of flatterers and unequivocal in his praise for the honest friend. He wrote, "One of the most valuable functions of a true friend is to bear with my follies, but to also tell me of them." And he drew a sharp distinction, stating, "Flattery creates a pleasing falsehood, a friend creates a profitable truth." For Seneca, a friend who shields you from your own mistakes or praises your poor judgment is no friend at all. They are an enemy to your progress. The person who loves you for your potential, who is invested in your journey toward wisdom, is the one who will point out your blind spots with kindness and clarity. This is the very essence of Stoic friendship. It is a partnership in the pursuit of virtue, not a mutual admiration society built on ego stroking. This principle extends far beyond close friendships into every sphere of influence, from leadership and mentorship to everyday collegial relationships. The most respected leaders are not the ones who constantly tell their teams how wonderful they are. They are the ones who provide clear, honest feedback that helps each team member become a more capable and effective version of themselves. Imagine you are a team leader and one of your most enthusiastic and well-liked team members, Sarah, has just presented a project plan. Her energy is infectious and the initial idea is creative. However, as you look over the details, you spot a critical flaw in the logistics, an oversight that, if uncorrected, will cause the entire project to fail a month from now. You have a choice. The path of flattery would be to praise her creativity and enthusiasm, to make her feel good in the moment, and to hope the problem somehow resolves itself or that someone else points it out later. The path of substance is more difficult but infinitely more valuable. You might schedule a private follow-up and say, "Sarah, I am genuinely impressed with the innovative approach you've taken here. Your enthusiasm for this project is fantastic, and it's going to be a huge asset. Because I believe in this idea and in you, I need to point out a potential challenge in the implementation timeline that we should solve together. Let's look at this section. In this scenario, you are not attacking her, you are aligning yourself with her success. You are offering the substance of your experience and insight to fortify her work. The immediate moment might be slightly uncomfortable, but the long-term outcome is that the project is saved. Sarah learns a valuable lesson that makes her a better professional, and her trust in you as a leader skyrockets. She knows you don't just care about her feelings, you care about her growth and the team's success. Now, turn this lens inward for a moment. Think back over the past few weeks. When was the last time you offered someone genuinely constructive criticism, not out of frustration, but from a sincere desire to help them improve? It might have been a small thing, like suggesting a better way to organize a shared document, or something more significant, like talking to a friend about a recurring behavior that is harming their relationships. Conversely, when was the last time you were on the receiving end of such feedback? How did it make you feel in the moment? Defensive, surprised, perhaps a little stung? And then, after some reflection, did you find value in it? Did it ultimately improve the situation or your own understanding? That initial discomfort is the price of growth. The Stoics would argue that we should actively seek out such substance, both to give and to receive, because it is the primary mechanism through which we sand away our rough edges and move closer to wisdom. The next time you have an opportunity to offer feedback, challenge yourself to frame it as an act of service, and when you receive it, practice meeting it with gratitude rather than defensiveness, seeing it not as a critique of your worth, but as a gift of perspective that can help you see yourself more clearly. We often wear confidence like a suit of armor, believing it must be polished to a perfect, unblemished shine, with no cracks or dents to reveal the human underneath. We think strength means projecting an image of infallibility, as if admitting a flaw or a mistake would shatter the entire illusion of our competence. But what if this very act of hiding our limitations is the greatest weakness of all? The Stoic path offers a surprising and powerful counterintuitive practice, the strength of purposeful vulnerability. This isn't about emotional dumping or seeking pity. It's a strategic, courageous choice to acknowledge your mistakes and limitations when doing so serves a higher purpose, the pursuit of truth, the growth of the team, or the strengthening of a relationship. It aligns perfectly with the Stoic virtue of humility, which is not about thinking less of yourself, but about thinking of yourself less and focusing on the collective progress toward wisdom. To admit you were wrong is to demonstrate that you are a rational being, a creature capable of learning and evolution. A mind that cannot acknowledge its errors is a closed system, stagnant and brittle. A mind that can say, "I was mistaken," is a living, growing entity, and that is the very essence of confidence rooted in reality, not in performance. This idea has deep philosophical roots stretching back to Socrates, who famously declared that his wisdom lay in the awareness of his own ignorance. "I know that I know nothing," he stated, not as a confession of stupidity, but as a profound epistemological stance. It is the starting pistol for all genuine inquiry. If you believe you already have all the answers, you stop asking questions, you stop learning. The Stoics, who saw Socrates as a primary inspiration, built upon this foundation. For them, philosophy was not an abstract academic exercise. It was a lifelong practice of applying reason to become a better human being. This requires a constant, sometimes uncomfortable, process of self-examination and correction. Epictetus, the philosopher who began his life in slavery, pointed directly to this when he taught. The beginning of philosophy is the awareness of one's own weakness and inability in necessary things. He is saying that the entire journey toward wisdom starts with the vulnerable, honest admission, I am not yet who I could be, I have things to learn. I am flawed. This isn't a moment of defeat, it is the moment of empowerment. It is the moment you take the first real step. When you openly acknowledge this in a social context, you accomplish something remarkable. You instantly disarm the defensive posturing that so often poisons interactions. You signal that you are not a threat to others' egos because you are not pretending your own ego is perfect. You create a space for genuine human connection, built on mutual authenticity rather than competitive pretense. Consider the impact of a leader who embodies this principle. Imagine a project manager, David, who championed a new strategy for his team. He was passionate, he presented the plan with conviction, and the team rallied behind him. But after a few months, the data begins to show that the strategy is not delivering the expected results. In fact, it's creating new problems. The old model of command and control leadership might dictate that David doubles down, finds someone else to blame, or quietly tries to change course without drawing attention to the initial error. He operates from a place of fear of losing authority, fear of appearing weak. Now, imagine the alternative. David calls a team meeting. He stands before them and says, "Team, I need to address our current strategy. I was the primary advocate for this approach, and I see now that I made a significant miscalculation in its implementation. I own that error. Your hard work has been incredible, and the fact that we're not seeing the results is on my initial plan, not your execution. So let's pivot. I've drafted some alternative directions based on what we've learned, and I need all of your input to build a better path forward." In this moment, David is not crumbling, he is demonstrating the highest form of leadership strength. He is prioritizing the team's mission and their collective wisdom over his own personal image. This act of purposeful vulnerability does not diminish his authority, it skyrockets it. He fosters an environment of radical psychological safety, where team members feel empowered to take risks, voice concerns, and admit their own mistakes without fear of retribution. This builds a resilient, adaptive, and deeply loyal team culture where the focus is always on finding the right answer, not on protecting individual egos. Now bring this concept down to a personal level. Think back to a recent error you made. It could be something as simple as giving a friend wrong directions, forgetting a commitment you made, or speaking harshly in a moment of frustration. What was your instinctive reaction? Was it to quickly explain it away, to find a mitigating circumstance, or to simply hope no one noticed? There's a natural, protective instinct to cover our tracks. But I want you to play out a different scenario in your mind. What if you had chosen purposeful vulnerability? What if you had gone to that friend and said, "I'm so sorry, the directions I gave you were completely wrong. That was my mistake, and I apologize for the hassle it caused you." Or to your colleague, "I completely blanked on that task I promised you. That's on me, and I'm getting it done right now." Notice how this shifts the entire energy of the situation. The hidden tension of an unacknowledged mistake evaporates. The other person, instead of being quietly resentful, is often disarmed by your honesty and quick to forgive. The relationship is repaired and often strengthened because you have demonstrated respect for them through your accountability. The mistake itself becomes a minor event, while your character in handling it becomes the main story. So take a moment to reflect on that recent slip-up. How might openly and purposefully acknowledging it have transformed the outcome? How might it have freed you from the subtle anxiety of hiding and allowed you to demonstrate a confidence that is not afraid of its own humanity? The most socially confident people you will ever meet share a common trait that seems almost superhuman at first glance. They are genuinely unmoved by both excessive praise and harsh criticism. They don't light up with a disproportionate glow when someone flatters them, and they don't crumble or become defensive when someone tears them down. This isn't an act of aloofness or a lack of caring. It is the outward manifestation of a profound internal shift. They have decoupled their sense of self-worth from the fickle, ever-changing opinions of other people. Instead of carrying an external scorecard that everyone else gets to mark, they have developed a rigorous, honest internal one. Their primary question is no longer, "What do they think of me?" but rather, "Was my action just? Was it courageous? Was it done with integrity?" This is the pinnacle of Stoic social confidence because it makes you immune to the social winds that blow everyone else off course. This entire practice is a masterclass in applying the Stoic dichotomy of control. The Stoics had a precise and incredibly useful term for things like praise and blame. They called them preferred indifference. This means that, all things being equal, it's perfectly natural to prefer being praised over being criticized. It feels better. It can even be useful. But it is not essential to your life going well. It is indifferent to your flourishing, to your eudaimonia. Why? Because your flourishing depends solely on your excellence of character, on your virtue. Your virtue is the only thing that is truly 100% within your control. The applause of a crowd, the approval of a boss, the admiration of your peers, these are externals. They are as unpredictable as the weather and just as unreliable a foundation upon which to build your self-esteem. When you outsource your sense of worth to these external markers, you hand over the remote control to your inner peace to anyone who happens to be passing by. They can lift you up with a compliment just as easily as they can devastate you with a cutting remark, and you are left as a passive passenger on their emotional roller coaster. Cultivating indifference is not about becoming an unfeeling robot. It is about correctly categorizing these events for what they are: pleasant or unpleasant noises that have no bearing on your core value, which is determined only by the quality of your own choices. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in the world, had to constantly remind himself of this truth while surrounded by sycophants and critics alike. In his private meditations, he wrote, "Let the noise of the world stand aside from you. The vain applause of the multitude, the madness of fame, let it be silenced." These things are meaningless to a mind that is focused on its own duty and content with its own just actions. He is telling himself that the roar of the crowd and the hiss of the critics are just that noise. They are a form of static that distracts from the only signal that matters, the quiet, steady hum of his own virtuous intent. His duty was to act rightly, not to be celebrated for his actions. His job was to be just, not to be loved for his justice. When your mind is anchored in this understanding, the social world transforms. You can participate in it fully, you can accept praise with polite gratitude, and you can consider criticism for any useful kernels of truth, but you do so from an unassailable position. You are like a deep-rooted tree in a storm. The leaves and branches, your social persona, might rustle in the wind of opinion, but your trunk, your character, remains solid and unmoved. Consider the example of an artist or a creator, a novelist, a musician, a filmmaker, who is deeply committed to their craft. They pour their soul into a new work that is authentic, challenging, and true to their vision. When they release it into the world, the reviews come in. Some are ecstatic, calling it a masterpiece. Others are scathing, dismissing it as pretentious garbage. The artist who has not cultivated this stoic indifference is at the mercy of these external judgments. A 5-star review sends them soaring for a day. A 1-star review ruins their week. They are tempted to chase trends, to dilute their next project to win back favor, to become a mere reflection of what the market seems to want. Their creative spirit becomes brittle and reactive. Now imagine the artist who has an internal scorecard. They have already assessed their own work against their own standards of integrity and craft. They know they were honest in their expression and diligent in their execution. When the praise arrives, they can appreciate it as a pleasant bonus, but it doesn't fundamentally alter their opinion of the work's value. When the criticism lands, they can sift through it. Is there a technical point they can learn from? If so, they file it away. Is it just a matter of subjective taste or a personal attack? If so, they let it pass by like a cloud in the sky. This artist continues to create with power and authenticity, year after year, building a body of work that is uniquely theirs. Their influence doesn't come from chasing applause, but from the unwavering commitment to their own artistic truth, which in turn attracts a dedicated audience that respects them for their integrity, not just their popularity. To begin building this internal fortress for yourself, I want you to try a simple but powerful exercise. Take a moment, right now if you can, and bring to mind one thing you did recently that you are genuinely proud of. It doesn't have to be a grand, world-changing achievement. Maybe you finally finished a book you'd been meaning to read. Perhaps you handled a difficult conversation with more patience than you thought you possessed. Maybe you chose to go for a walk instead of scrolling on your phone, honoring a commitment you made to yourself. The key is to focus on an action where your own internal judgment is the only one that matters. Now write it down, physically write it on a piece of paper or type it into a note on your phone. As you do, observe the feeling that arises. There is a quiet, self-sufficient satisfaction that comes from this act of self-acknowledgement. It is a feeling that requires no external validation to be complete. This small practice is a seed. By consciously recognizing and valuing your own virtuous actions, independent of whether anyone else noticed or applauded them, you are starting to reprogram your source of self-worth. You are telling your own psyche, "My value is determined here by me based on my own efforts and character." The more you do this, the less power the praise and blame of others will have over you, and the more you will walk into any room with the unshakable confidence of someone who already knows their own score. Imagine for a moment the incredible power contained within a single, deliberate breath. In the flash of an instant after a provocation, your entire body is wired to react. Your pulse quickens, your muscles tense, and words are already forming on your tongue, ready to launch a counterattack or a defensive plea. This is the autopilot of emotion, a deeply ingrained survival mechanism. But right here, in this sliver of time between the event and your reply, lies what we can call the sacred pause. This is not merely a moment of hesitation. It is a conscious, disciplined decision to create a buffer zone between the external world and your internal world. It is in this quiet, intentional space that you reclaim your sovereignty from your impulses. You are no longer a puppet whose strings are pulled by every comment and criticism. You become the puppeteer, carefully choosing which string to pull next. This simple act of inserting a pause is the practical, tangible application of the entire Stoic discipline of assent, and it is the very birthplace of your freedom and wisdom. Epictetus, the philosopher who turned his own hardship into a universal guide for living, gave us the foundational insight that makes this pause possible. He said, "Men are disturbed not by things, but by the views which they take of them." Let that sink in. The event itself, the critical email, the rude comment, the unexpected rejection, is neutral until your mind assigns it a meaning. That assignment happens in a nanosecond, and it is this initial, often unconscious, judgment that creates the emotional storm. The sacred pause is the conscious intervention in that automatic process. It is the moment you catch the initial impression, "This person is disrespecting me," and instead of instantly agreeing with it, you hold it up for examination. You create a space to ask, Is this necessarily true? What other interpretations are possible? Is this worth my peace of mind? This is not about suppressing your feelings. It is about elevating your reason to be the gatekeeper of your mind. In that pause, you are not a passive recipient of disturbance. You are an active architect of your response. It is the difference between being a cork bobbing on the waves of other people's actions and being the captain of your own ship, steady at the helm. Consider the high-stakes environment of a heated political debate or a tense boardroom negotiation. The pressure to respond immediately is immense. The other person makes a sharp, personal attack on your position, questioning your intelligence or your motives. The collective energy of the room seems to demand an instant, equally sharp retort. This is the crucible where social confidence is forged. The reactive path is to fire back, to match their tone, to defend your ego. But the Stoic path, the path of profound influence, looks completely different. You feel the heat rise, you sense the words forming, and you consciously choose the pause. You might take a slow, deliberate sip of water. You might simply make steady eye contact and breathe in and out once, fully. In that 2 or 3 seconds of silence, several powerful things happen. First, you demonstrate immense self-control, which immediately commands a different kind of respect. Second, you break the rhythmic cycle of attack and counterattack, disorienting the other person and de-escalating the emotional temperature. And third, and most importantly, you give your rational mind the microseconds it needs to formulate a response that is not an emotional outburst, but a strategic, reasoned point. Your rebuttal, when it comes, is not a defensive screech but a calm, measured statement. Instead of, "How dare you question my research?" you might say, "That's a strong perspective." Let's look at the specific data points I used to form my conclusion. You have not conceded, you have elevated the conversation. You have shifted the focus from a clash of personalities to a discussion of facts and logic. Your calm becomes a silent, powerful force that makes the other person's reactivity appear weak and unhinged by comparison. You win not by shouting louder, but by demonstrating a mastery over the one thing everyone in the room is struggling with themselves. This pause is your superpower in any conflict, allowing you to respond from a place of chosen principle rather than primal panic. To begin weaving this discipline into the fabric of your daily life, start with the small, friction-filled moments that happen dozens of times a day. The next time you're in a minor, frustrating interaction, perhaps a customer service representative gives you unhelpful information, or your child refuses to put on their shoes, or another driver cuts you off in traffic, I want you to make this your laboratory. Your only goal in that moment is to notice the space. When the triggering event occurs, consciously feel the urge to react. Feel the impatient word forming in your throat, the sigh of frustration, the gesture of annoyance. And then, just for a heartbeat, suspend it. Don't try to stop the feeling, just notice the gap between the event and your compelled reaction. In that tiny window, you will glimpse your own freedom. You are not your first impulse. You are the awareness that can observe that impulse. By practicing this in these low-stakes environments, you are building the neural muscle memory to deploy the sacred pause when the stakes are high. You are training yourself to no longer be a servant to every passing impression, but to become the discerning master of your own mind, one conscious breath at a time. What if we've been thinking about gratitude all wrong? We often treat it as a passive emotion, something that just happens to us when things go our way, a fleeting sense of warmth when we receive a gift or a compliment. But from a Stoic perspective, this is a profound misunderstanding. Gratitude is not merely a feeling that visits you, it is a disciplined practice that you actively cultivate. It is a choice to direct your attention toward what is present and good, a conscious training of your mind to see the sufficiency that already exists in your life, rather than fixating on what is lacking. This shift is not soft or sentimental. It is a rigorous exercise in controlling your perceptions, which the Stoics believed was the foundation of a tranquil and virtuous life. When you make gratitude your default setting, you are not waiting for the world to make you happy. You are actively constructing a lens through which the world appears more abundant, and in doing so, you fundamentally reshape your social reality. This practice is intimately connected to one of the most powerful Stoic techniques, negative visualization or premeditatio malorum. This is the deliberate contemplation of potential loss. The Stoics would regularly bring to mind the possibility that their health could fail, their loved ones could be gone, or their possessions could be lost. This wasn't a morbid exercise in pessimism. Its purpose was precisely the opposite: to jolt the mind out of taking things for granted and to ignite a fierce, present-moment appreciation for what one has. By mentally rehearsing the loss of your job, you suddenly appreciate the fact that you have one. By imagining the absence of a friend, your gratitude for their presence in your life becomes acute and immediate. This practice forges resilience because it prepares you for adversity, but its immediate social benefit is the profound sense of appreciation it generates. When you truly internalize that everything you have and everyone you know is transient, your interactions are infused with a deeper respect and a more sincere thankfulness. This isn't a gloomy outlook, it's a wake-up call to the preciousness of the ordinary, making you more present, more engaged, and more genuinely warm in your social encounters. No one embodied this reflective practice more clearly than the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius. In his private journal, known today as Meditations, he didn't just occasionally feel thankful, he methodically and systematically listed the things he was grateful for. In the very first book, he goes through a long, detailed catalogue of people and their influences on his life. He expresses gratitude to his grandfather for his good character, to his father for his reputation and modesty, to his mother for her piety and generosity, and even to tutors and gods for specific lessons and protections. He writes, "From my grandfather Verus, a kindly disposition and sweetness of temper," and later, "From the gods, good grandparents, good parents, a good sister, good teachers, good family, good friends, good everything." This was not a casual diary entry. It was a philosophical and psychological exercise. He was actively programming his mind to focus on the benevolence he had received, which in turn shaped his own disposition to be benevolent toward others. He was building his social character from a foundation of acknowledged debt and interconnectedness, which is the antithesis of arrogant, self-made isolation. The real-world application of this is both simple and transformative. Consider the daily interaction of buying a coffee. The typical, rushed transaction involves a mumbled thanks without eye contact, a mere social autopilot. Now apply the Stoic practice. As you approach the counter, you briefly bring to mind the chain of events that brought this coffee to you: the farmers, the shippers, the roasters, the person who brewed it. You recognize the service being provided. When the barista hands you the cup, you look them in the eye, you offer a genuine smile, and you say, "Thank you so much. I really appreciate it." The words are almost the same, but the energy is entirely different. This is not empty politeness. It is a moment of authentic human recognition. The effect is a ripple. The barista, who may have faced a stream of impersonal interactions, feels seen and valued. Their day is subtly brightened. They are then more likely to bring that slightly brighter demeanor to the next customer. And you, by actively generating that feeling of gratitude, have shifted your own internal state. You walk away not just with a coffee, but with a small dose of connection and personal warmth that makes you more open, more approachable, and more positive in your subsequent interactions. This same principle applies to thanking a colleague for sending a timely email, a partner for washing the dishes, or a stranger for holding a door. Each acknowledgement is a small deposit into the social fabric, building a reputation as someone who is attentive and appreciative, which naturally attracts people and strengthens bonds. To begin weaving this discipline into your own life, here is a small but powerful challenge. Before your very next social engagement, whether it's a team meeting, a dinner with friends, or even a phone call, I want you to pause for just 30 seconds. In that pause, mentally list 3 specific things you are grateful for in that very moment. Do not default to generic ideas like my health or my family. Get specific. It could be the comfortable chair you're sitting in, the interesting project you're about to discuss, the fact that the sun is shining through the window, or the reliable technology that allows you to connect with others. The specificity is crucial because it forces your mind out of abstraction and into a concrete appreciation of your present reality. This tiny act does 2 things simultaneously. First, it grounds you in the present moment, reducing any anticipatory social anxiety by focusing you on the sufficiency of the now. Second, it primes your mind to enter the social interaction from a place of abundance and warmth, rather than from a place of need or performance. You will find yourself listening more intently, engaging more generously, and carrying a quiet, authentic confidence that comes from knowing that no matter what happens in the conversation, you are already operating from a foundation of gratitude. The anxiety of social comparison is a truly exhausting burden, a constant mental calculation of where you stand on an invisible ladder relative to everyone else in the room. You find yourself scanning the crowd, sizing up others' clothes, their job titles, their apparent confidence, their social ease, and you end up assigning yourself a rank. This person is above me, that person is below me, and I need to prove I belong here. This entire exhausting process, this internal social arithmetic, evaporates in an instant when you make one simple but profound shift in the question you ask yourself. Instead of asking, how do I look? Am I impressive enough? How do I measure up? You ask, what can I contribute here? This shift moves you from a posture of scarcity and insecurity to a stance of abundance and purpose. You are no longer a beggar at the banquet of social approval, hoping to snatch a few crumbs of validation. You become a host looking for ways to nourish the gathering itself. This is not a psychological trick. It is the practical embodiment of the Stoic call to live in accordance with your own nature and to fulfill your specific role within the larger human community. The Stoics believed that the universe is a single, rational, interconnected whole, a cosmos, and within this cosmos, every person, every plant, every creature has a unique role to play, a specific function to fulfill. A pine tree does not waste its energy being jealous of the oak tree for its broader leaves. It focuses on being the best possible pine tree, reaching deep into the earth with its roots and stretching high toward the sun with its needles. In the same way, you have a unique constellation of talents, experiences, perspectives, and capacities that no one else possesses in quite the same way. To constantly compare yourself to others is therefore fundamentally irrational. It is like a foot being jealous of the hand for its dexterity. Both are essential parts of the same body, and the body functions best when each part performs its own specific duty without envy or distraction. Your duty, your oikeiosis as the Stoics called it, is to identify your own unique role and to play it to the best of your ability. Your job is to contribute your specific note to the symphony of human interaction, not to try and play someone else's instrument. When your focus is on that contribution, the noisy, distracting business of comparison simply falls away because it becomes irrelevant to your central mission. Epictetus, with his characteristic blunt wisdom, cut straight to the heart of this matter. He instructed his students, Be not concerned about what others are doing or not doing. Be concerned about what you are doing, and further, he advised, if you seek to be a person of high character, let no one draw you away by their misbehavior or their success. Look to your own self, to your own moral purpose. This is the ultimate antidote to comparison. He isn't telling you to be oblivious to others. He is telling you to make them irrelevant to your core metric of success. Your only concern is whether you are acting with justice, wisdom, courage, and self-discipline in this moment. Are you using your unique faculties rationally? Are you offering what you genuinely have to offer? When this becomes your operating system, the social world transforms from a gladiatorial arena where you must defeat others to earn your worth, into a collaborative workshop where you are simply looking for the right place to apply your specific tools. Your confidence ceases to be comparative and becomes intrinsic, flowing from the steady knowledge that you are doing your part, fulfilling your nature. Let's bring this principle to life in a scenario that fills many with dread: the professional networking event. The conventional approach is to see it as a hunting ground. You arm yourself with a stack of business cards. Your goal is to collect as many as possible, and your self-worth for the evening is measured by the number of contacts you make. You flit from person to person, delivering your elevator pitch, all the while scanning the room over their shoulder to see if there's someone more important to talk to. It's a transactional, exhausting, and often deeply unsatisfying experience rooted in comparison and acquisition. Now imagine entering that same room with the Stoic question, "What can I contribute here?" Your entire mission changes. You are not there to take, you are there to give. You might approach a small group and instead of launching into your own resume, you ask thoughtful questions. What are you all working on that you're most excited about? You listen, truly listen for points of connection. You hear someone mention a challenge they're facing with a software platform, and you remember that another person you spoke to earlier is an expert in that very area. Your contribution in that moment is not to talk about yourself, but to make an introduction. You know, I was just speaking with Sarah over by the refreshments, and she specializes in that exact problem. Would you like me to introduce you? In that single act, you have provided immense value. You have helped solve a problem and facilitated a genuine connection. You are no longer just another face in the crowd. You are a linchpin, a valuable node in the network. People will remember you not for your polished pitch, but for your generosity and attentiveness. Your influence grows not because you demanded attention, but because you became a source of genuine help. To make this shift tangible in your own life, I want you to engage in a brief but powerful exercise of self-inquiry. Set aside all thoughts of how you compare to your colleagues, your friends, or the people you follow online. For just a few minutes, turn your gaze inward. What is one unique skill, perspective, or even a peculiar life experience that you possess? Maybe you have a knack for simplifying complex ideas. Perhaps you have lived in another country and can see your own culture from a dual perspective. It could be that you are an incredibly patient listener, or you have a deep knowledge of a niche topic like ancient history or gardening. Now, picture yourself in a group setting you frequent, a team meeting at work, a book club, a family gathering. How could you consciously offer that unique attribute? If your skill is simplifying complexity, your contribution might be to summarize a confusing discussion into 3 clear action points. If your perspective is shaped by travel, you might offer an alternative viewpoint when the group is stuck in a parochial way of thinking. If your gift is patience, your offering could be to quietly draw out the shyest person in the room, ensuring their voice is heard. The act of identifying your unique offering and then consciously looking for an opportunity to deploy it transforms you from a passive participant into an active contributor. It gives you a purpose that is entirely within your control and completely independent of anyone else's performance. This is how you build a confidence that is rooted not in being better than others, but in being fully and authentically yourself. Now, let's equip ourselves with one of the most practical tools in the Stoic arsenal for building social resilience, the mental rehearsal for life. Think of this not as anxious worrying, but as a strategic pre-game ritual for your mind. Before you step onto the field of any challenging social interaction, you have the power to go through the plays in your head, to inoculate yourself against panic, and to prepare a response rooted in your character, not your fears. This is the practice of premeditating social challenges, and it transforms anxiety into preparedness. It's the difference between walking into a difficult conversation feeling like a hostage to fortune and walking in feeling like a prepared envoy of your own values. You are essentially taking the unknown and making it familiar, draining it of its power to shock your system and throw you off balance. This powerful technique is a direct application of the core Stoic discipline known as Premeditatio Malorum, the premeditation of evils. While the term sounds grim, its purpose is profoundly liberating. The Stoics weren't advocating for a life of paranoid dread, they were advocating for a life of unshakable readiness. The logic is impeccable. We fear the unknown. The sudden, unexpected blow is the one that knocks us down. But if we have already met the adversary in the safe arena of our own mind, if we have already looked upon the worst-case scenario and seen that we can endure it, then when it arrives, or more likely, when a much milder version of it arrives, we are not stunned. We are prepared. We have already decided how we will respond. Applying this socially means deliberately imagining that awkward silence, that pointed question, that potential rejection, or that moment of saying something foolish. By visualizing it beforehand, you rob the event of its element of surprise. It becomes a contingency you have already considered, not a monster lurking in the shadows. This process allows you to move from a state of fearful reaction to one of chosen, virtuous action. Seneca, the great Stoic statesman and playwright, championed this practice as a fundamental key to a tranquil life. In his moral letters to his friend Lucilius, he wrote with stunning clarity, "He who has anticipated the coming of troubles takes away their power when they arrive." Pause and consider the immense power in that statement. The trouble itself may still occur, but its capacity to disturb your inner citadel, to shatter your peace, is dramatically reduced because you have already fortified your mind against it. He further advised, we should project our thoughts ahead of us at every turn and have in mind every possible outcome, not just the usual ones. This is the essence of strategic thinking. It's not about pessimism, it's about realism and comprehensive preparation. By envisioning not just the hoped-for outcome but the full spectrum of possibilities, you ensure that no social interaction can catch you psychologically defenseless. You enter with a plan for grace under pressure. Let's translate this from ancient wisdom into a modern, high-stakes scenario. Imagine you need to have a difficult conversation with your boss about a missed deadline, a need for more resources, or perhaps even a misunderstanding about your performance. The anxiety in the days leading up to this meeting can be paralyzing. Your mind might spiral through catastrophic fantasies of being fired or humiliated. This is where premeditation shifts from passive worry to active preparation. Find a quiet moment, close your eyes, and mentally walk into your boss's office. See yourself sitting down. Now, vividly imagine a few different ways the conversation could unfold. What if your boss is immediately defensive and critical? Instead of mentally flinching, visualize yourself taking a calm breath, maintaining steady eye contact, and saying, "I understand your frustration. Let's look at the specific issues so I can address them." What if they seem dismissive or distracted? Picture yourself calmly and clearly reiterating your key points without becoming agitated. What if the conversation goes better than expected? Even then, visualize yourself receiving the good news with grateful humility, not giddy triumph. The goal is to rehearse your inner state and your virtuous response for each scenario. You are programming your mind to default to calmness and principle, no matter what emotional weather your boss brings into the room. When you then have the actual conversation, it feels familiar. You've already been here, your nervous system remains regulated, and your ability to think clearly and communicate effectively is preserved. To make this an active part of your own social toolkit, I want you to take a very specific action. Think of one upcoming social event that is causing you a flutter of anxiety. It might be a party where you won't know many people, a presentation you have to give, a first date, or a family gathering with a relative who always knows how to push your buttons. Now, I want you to literally schedule 2 minutes today to do nothing but this mental rehearsal. Sit quietly without distraction and close your eyes. Breathe deeply. Now, run a mental movie of the event from start to finish. But in this movie, you are the director, and the star is the most virtuous, calm version of yourself. See yourself walking in with a relaxed posture and a calm demeanor. Visualize a challenging moment, perhaps a lull in conversation, a difficult question, or that relative's provoking comment, and watch yourself navigate it with poise. See yourself listening more than speaking, responding with thoughtfulness instead of reaction, and maintaining a quiet, inner smile regardless of the external noise. This isn't magical thinking, it is neural preparation. You are building the mental pathways and emotional muscle memory for grace under fire. By spending just 2 minutes in this proactive state, you disarm the anxiety of the unknown and step into your future social self, armed with reason and a pre-tested plan for tranquility. Now feel into that familiar sensation of social pressure closing in around you, the weight of eyes, the echo of laughter you're not part of, the suffocating awareness of your own performance in a room full of strangers. It's as if the entire universe has contracted into this single, brightly lit box, and your every word, every gesture carries the gravity of a final judgment. But what if you could, in the space of a single breath, expand that universe back to its true, infinite scale? There exists a mental maneuver, a cognitive shift so profound it can dissolve social anxiety on contact, and it was a secret weapon of a Roman emperor who ruled the known world. It's called the view from above, and it's your instant portal out of the prison of self-consciousness and into a perspective of liberating vastness. This is not an act of dissociation or withdrawal. It is an act of reorientation, a contemplative exercise that Marcus Aurelius used to ground himself amidst the chaos of court politics, military campaigns, and endless demands on his attention. He would deliberately pull his consciousness back from the petty squabbles and the posturing officials, past the borders of his empire, beyond the sphere of the earth itself, to view human life from the vantage point of the stars. From there, the bustling anxiety of the Roman Forum looked like nothing more than an anthill, and the dramas of individual lives seemed fleeting and small. He wasn't diminishing the value of human connection, but rather placing it in its proper context. By seeing the triviality of most social posturing in the grand, cosmic scheme, he drained the fear from it. The opinion of a rival senator, the sting of a critical remark, the pressure to impress, these things lost their power when viewed against the backdrop of galaxies and millennia. This practice diminishes the ego not by crushing it, but by revealing its true, wonderfully small place in a magnificent, interconnected whole. Marcus Aurelius left us the precise instructions for this mental journey in his private journal. He wrote, "Keep always before your eyes how swiftly all things pass away, both the things themselves and their memories. What is the nature of the universe? What is my place in it? Remember the infinite abyss of time before you were born, and the vastness that will follow after. See the brief, fleeting moment that is your life." And in another passage, he directs his mind with stunning clarity. "Look down from above on the countless herds of men, their countless rituals, their voyages in storm and calm, the different ways we come into the world, share it with others, and leave it. Consider, too, the life lived by others long ago, and the life that will be lived after you." He is actively commanding his perception to zoom out, to see his current social and political turmoil as just one more scene in an endless, repeating human drama. This isn't a cold or nihilistic view, it is a deeply calming one. It reassures you that your current social discomfort, your moment of awkwardness, your fear of saying the wrong thing, it is a tiny, passing cloud in the vast sky of your existence and the history of the cosmos. It simply doesn't matter as much as your anxious mind insists it does. Let's translate this ancient astronaut's view into a modern scenario you might face. Imagine you're in a high-stakes negotiation for a new job or a business contract. The other party is tough, using pressure tactics, and you feel the tension coiling in your shoulders. Every word feels like a strategic move in a life or death chess match. This is the moment to deploy the view from above. In your mind's eye, while maintaining perfect eye contact and engagement, you allow your awareness to expand. You imagine the room you're in from a bird's eye view, seeing the two of you as small figures across a table. You pull back further, seeing the building as a tiny block in the city grid. You keep going, seeing the city as a speck on the continent, the planet as a blue marble hanging in the blackness of space. From this cosmic perspective, the specific number on the contract or the exact wording of your title feels almost laughably insignificant. What truly matters, your integrity, your ability to connect with another human being, even in a negotiation, your inner peace. With this perspective firmly in place, you can return your full attention to the conversation, but now you are unshakable. You can negotiate firmly but without desperation, you can listen without defensiveness, and you can walk away without attachment, because your self-worth is no longer tied to the outcome of this single, tiny point in space-time. Or consider walking into a large party where you know almost no one. The instinct is to scan the room and see a monolithic wall of successful, connected people, and to feel small and isolated in comparison. Now apply the view from above. As you stand by the punch bowl, you pause and perform the mental shift. You see the room not as a threatening arena, but as a collection of tiny, temporary beings, each with their own immense, invisible world of joys, sorrows, insecurities, and dreams. That man laughing loudly is worrying about his mother's health. The woman who seems so poised is anxious about a presentation tomorrow. Every single person in this room is, like you, a brief constellation of stardust given consciousness for a flickering moment. From this vantage point, the social hierarchy evaporates. There are no important people and nobodies. There are only fellow travelers on a strange and beautiful journey. This realization fills you not with alienation, but with a deep sense of kinship and compassion. Your urge to impress is replaced by a genuine curiosity to connect. You are no longer a performer on a stage, but a conscious observer in a fascinating human zoo, and this shift makes you infinitely more calm, more interesting, and more magnetic. To make this more than just a philosophical idea and turn it into a tool you can use tonight, I have a very specific challenge for you. The next time you feel that familiar flush of social overwhelm, whether in a crowded elevator, a contentious meeting, or a noisy restaurant, I want you to try this. Just for 10 seconds, pause, let your eyes soften. In your mind, imagine your perspective lifting straight up out of your own body, through the ceiling and into the sky. See the building shrink beneath you, then the neighborhood, then the city. Picture everyone in that room with you, including yourself, as tiny, animated dots. See your entire city, then your country, as a map. From this satellite's view, all the posturing, the anxiety, the social maneuvering is invisible. There is only the beautiful, silent, intricate whole. Then gently bring your awareness back into the room. Notice how the emotional charge of the situation has changed. The stakes feel lower, don't they? The people seem less intimidating. You have reconnected with the truth that this single moment is a minuscule, manageable part of your vast and wonderful life. This simple act of cognitive travel is one of the most powerful ways to instantly reclaim your calm and remember that you are not just a participant in the social game, but a conscious being who can always choose to view the board from above. Why are you really doing what you're doing right now? In the middle of a conversation, when you laugh a little too loudly at a joke, or when you decide to hold back a piece of information to make yourself look better, or when you feel that small, sharp urge to one-up someone's story, what is the true engine behind that action? Is it a genuine desire to connect, to contribute, to be of service? Or is it the quiet, persistent whisper of the ego, seeking validation, superiority, or simply to be seen? This relentless, gentle questioning of your own motives is the essence of the 13th behavior, the habit of self-interrogation. It is the practice of becoming a loving but rigorous investigator of your own inner world, a practice the Stoics considered absolutely fundamental to the philosophical life. This isn't about self-flagellation or spiraling into doubt. It is about holding up a clean mirror to your soul each day to ensure that the person looking back is the one you truly intend to be, and that your social presence is built on the solid bedrock of virtue, not the shifting sands of vanity. The Stoics formalized this through a daily ritual, most famously the evening review. After the day was done, the noises of the world had faded, and before sleep would claim them, they would sit with themselves and their journal. This was a time for honest accounting, not of money, but of moral currency. Seneca, one of the most prominent advocates of this practice, described his own nightly routine in his letters. He would ask himself pointed, powerful questions as he reviewed the events of his day. What bad habit have you cured today? He would ask. What fault have you resisted? In what respect are you better? His focus wasn't on external achievements, how many people he had impressed or what deals he had closed. His examination was relentlessly internal. He was looking for the cracks in his own character, the moments where his actions may have strayed from the path of wisdom, justice, courage, or self-discipline. He was ensuring that his desire for influence in the social and political world was not rooted in a hunger for applause, but in a sincere wish to act justly and contribute to the common good. This daily audit is what prevents the mission from becoming corrupted over time. It's the constant recalibration that ensures your social confidence is an expression of your character, not a performance designed to construct one. Let's bring this ancient practice out of the scrolls and into a modern context. Imagine you've just returned home from a networking event. The conventional post-mortem might sound like this. Did I make a good impression on the senior partners? Did I collect enough business cards? Did I sound smart and interesting in my conversations? This line of questioning keeps you tethered to the external, to the realm of things outside your control. The Stoic evening review, applied to this same scenario, transforms the entire reflection. You sit quietly and ask a different set of questions entirely. In my conversations tonight, was I fair? Did I listen as much as I spoke, giving others the space to be heard? Was I kind, especially to the person who seemed shy or out of place? Did I have the courage to be genuine, to talk about my real interests and challenges, rather than just reciting a polished, impersonal pitch? When that colleague made a comment I disagreed with, did I react with patience and a desire to understand, or with a quick, ego-driven need to correct them? This shift in focus is revolutionary. You are no longer measuring your success by the fickle metric of others' opinions. You are measuring it by the unwavering standard of your own virtue. You might realize that while you were successful in collecting contacts, you failed in kindness by dominating conversations. Or you might find that while you didn't speak to the most important person in the room, you had a profoundly generous and supportive conversation with someone who really needed it, and that, from a Stoic perspective, was the true victory of the evening. This practice of self-interrogation extends far beyond a formal evening session. It can become a running, real-time commentary in your mind during interactions, a gentle inner voice that helps you self-correct in the moment. You're in a team meeting and you feel the urge to dismiss a junior colleague's idea. Just before you speak, that inner investigator gently asks, why? Is it because the idea is genuinely without merit, or is it because it wasn't your idea and your ego feels threatened? That moment of honest self-questioning can be the difference between shutting down a valuable contribution and leaning in with curiosity to build upon it. You're about to share a story on social media. The inner voice inquires, what is the true purpose of this post? Is it to share a genuine moment of joy or insight? Or is it to craft an image, to elicit a specific reaction of envy or admiration from others? This constant, gentle interrogation is the ultimate tool for integrity. It ensures that your outward actions are consistent with your inward values, and when that alignment is present, it produces a social confidence that is quiet, magnetic, and utterly unshakable because it is real. To begin weaving this powerful discipline into the fabric of your own life, I want to offer you a single, potent question to ask yourself tonight, a question that cuts straight to the heart of the matter. As you reflect on your day, on all your interactions, big and small, simply ask, did my actions today serve my ego or my character? This is the fundamental fork in the road. Serving the ego means acting from a place of lack, from a need to be validated, to be seen as superior, to protect a fragile self-image. It is the source of boasting, of defensiveness, of gossip, of needing to win every argument. Serving your character means acting from a place of abundance, from a commitment to your core virtues. It is the source of generosity, of patience, of honest communication, of the courage to be vulnerable. You will find that almost every social action you take can be traced back to one of these two motivations. By asking this question with gentle honesty each night, you start to become exquisitely aware of the subtle pulls of your ego throughout the day. You begin to catch it in the act, and in that awareness you reclaim your power to choose a different path. You start to consciously architect a social life where your influence is not a byproduct of your neediness, but a natural extension of your unwavering commitment to being a good human being. True strength from a Stoic perspective isn't just about how many battles you can win, but about possessing the profound wisdom to know which battles are not worth fighting at all. So much of our social energy is frittered away on skirmishes that have no bearing on our character or our peace, leaving us drained and distracted when a truly important matter of principle arises. The Stoics called this essential skill phronsis practical wisdom. It is the cultivated ability to discern the difference between a genuine threat to your virtue and a mere nuisance to your ego, and to direct your efforts accordingly. This isn't a passive surrender, it is an active, strategic conservation of your most precious resources, your attention, your emotional equilibrium, and your time. By letting the trivial and the unimportant simply pass you by, you preserve your dignity and maintain a focus that allows you to act with immense power when a situation truly calls for it, when your core values are on the line. This practice is a masterclass in applying the dichotomy of control with finesse. Many things that provoke us into conflict, a perceived slight, a difference in taste, a minor correction, a sarcastic comment online, are not just outside our control. They are also completely indifferent to our ability to live a good and virtuous life. Engaging with them is like trying to reason with the weather. The ancient teachers were particularly dismissive of those who wasted their reason on such petty squabbles. The Roman Stoic Musonius Rufus, for instance, pointed out the sheer absurdity of it, saying, "In the same way that it is a sign of folly to argue about the price of lettuce or a loaf of bread, so it is to quarrel over a petty honor or a trivial insult." His point is devastatingly clear. The fool expends their precious faculty of reason, the very thing that makes them human, on matters as insignificant as haggling over vegetables. They are trading their inner tranquility for a victory that is hollow, fleeting, and ultimately worthless. The wise person, in contrast, sees the lettuce for what it is, a preferred indifferent, and focuses their mental and emotional energy on what truly matters, their own judgments, their choices, and their commitment to living justly. Consider the modern arena where this wisdom is most desperately needed, the digital world. You post a thoughtful comment on a social media platform, and within minutes, a stranger leaves a reply that is deliberately provocative, personally insulting, and designed solely to get a reaction. The initial, visceral impulse is to fire back. Your fingers itch to type a cutting rebuttal, to dismantle their logic, to expose their rudeness for all to see. This is the battle your ego is begging you to fight, but now apply the Stoic filter of practical wisdom. Is this conflict necessary? Does engaging with this anonymous person serve any virtuous purpose? Will it make you more just, more courageous, more wise? Or is it merely a trap for your attention and your peace? The person of practical wisdom recognizes the provocation for what it is, a piece of digital noise, an external utterly devoid of real power. They understand that the most powerful response is not a clever retort, but a conscious, deliberate choice to ignore it entirely. By refusing to engage, you demonstrate a level of self-control and focus that is far more impressive than any witty comeback could ever be. You have not been defeated. You have simply declined to enter an arena where no victory has any value. Your silence is not weakness. It is the quiet announcement that your mental real estate is too valuable to be occupied by such trivialities. This principle applies with equal force in our face-to-face interactions. Imagine a colleague at work consistently makes subtle, sarcastic remarks about your contributions in meetings. The old reactive you would feel compelled to confront them, to demand an apology, to prove your point in front of everyone. This creates a cycle of tension, defensiveness, and office drama that consumes your mental energy for days. The Stoic approach, guided by Phronsie, involves a different calculation. You pause and ask yourself, is this person's opinion within my control? No. Is their behavior a true impediment to me acting with virtue and doing my job well? Not necessarily. By choosing not to confront every petty jab, you are not being a doormat. You are making a strategic decision to conserve your energy for the work that actually matters. Your calm, unbothered demeanor in the face of their attempts to provoke you becomes a silent testament to your inner strength. It often happens that when you refuse to play the game, the other person, deprived of the reaction they seek, simply loses interest and moves on. You have maintained your dignity, protected your peace, and conserved your energy for the battles that truly count, like doing excellent work, supporting your team, and upholding your own integrity. To begin integrating this transformative discernment into your own life, take a moment for a brief but powerful audit. Grab a piece of paper or open a note on your phone, and I want you to honestly list one recurring battle that you find yourself frequently engaged in. It doesn't have to be a major conflict. It could be the compulsion to correct your partner's minor inaccuracies when they tell a story. It might be the feeling that you must always have the last word in a text message argument with a friend. It could be the resentment you feel when someone cuts in front of you in a line, and the mental script you replay about it for the next hour. Just identify one. Now look at that item on your list and subject it to the Stoic test of practical wisdom. Is this conflict over something truly essential to your character and your values, or is it, upon clear-eyed reflection, your ego arguing over the price of lettuce? What would it feel like to consciously, deliberately, let that specific battle go just for 1 week? The sense of liberation that follows this single act of wise surrender can be profound, opening up vast reserves of mental space and calm that you can then devote to what is genuinely meaningful. What is more important to you, being right or being at peace? This question strikes at the very heart of a social behavior that requires immense strength, the grace of letting others be right. We live in a culture that often equates winning an argument with intelligence and strength, but the Stoics reveal a profound truth. The relentless need to be right is usually a sign of fragility, not fortitude. It is the ego's desperate attempt to assert control in a world that is largely uncontrollable. When you find yourself in a debate over a trivial fact, a minor detail in a story, or a subjective point of taste, you are standing at a crossroads. One path leads to a momentary victory for your ego, a fleeting sensation of superiority that often comes at the cost of connection and your own inner calm. The other path, the Stoic path, leads to the preservation of harmony and the quiet, enduring satisfaction of having chosen your peace over a pointless skirmish. This is not about conceding on matters of core principle or justice, but about exercising discernment over the countless minor disagreements that fill our days. This graceful surrender is an advanced and deeply practical application of the Stoic dichotomy of control. The opinions, beliefs, and stubborn assertions of other people reside firmly in the category of things not up to us. You can present facts, you can offer logic, you can plead your case with eloquence, but you cannot force another human being to change their mind. The internal landscape of their thoughts is their own sovereign territory. When you insist on being right, what you are often trying to do is commandeer that territory, a futile and exhausting endeavor that is destined to create friction and resentment. The Stoic recognizes this fundamental boundary. They understand that their own peace of mind is an internal good, fully within their control, while the agreement of others is an external, preferred but not essential. Trading your inner tranquility for the hollow trophy of winning a minor argument is a terrible bargain. You are sacrificing something of real, lasting value for something of fleeting, illusory worth. Epictetus provided a brilliantly simple and disarming verbal tool for these situations. He taught, if someone insists that something is so, even if it is clearly false, you can simply reply, that is your opinion. Consider the sheer power and freedom contained within that phrase. It is not an agreement, it is not a surrender of your own understanding. It is a calm, dignified acknowledgement of a boundary. You are recognizing their right to hold their view without feeling compelled to dismantle it. You are stating a simple, unassailable fact. This is what you think, and that is what I think. The argument simply has nowhere to go from there. The energy that was building for a conflict dissipates instantly. You have maintained your own position internally without needing to enforce it externally, and you have completely de-escalated the situation. This response requires immense self-possession because it means your sense of self is not threatened by someone else's incorrectness. Your worth is not on the line in every minor factual discrepancy. Imagine a classic family gathering scenario. You're sitting around the dinner table and an uncle begins recounting a story about a movie you all saw years ago. He gets a key detail completely wrong. He insists the main actor was Tom Hanks when you know with absolute certainty it was Denzel Washington. The old, automatic impulse is to jump in immediately. No, Uncle Joe, it was Denzel Washington, I'm sure of it. The conversation then derails into a 5-minute debate with people pulling out phones to check facts. The uncle gets slightly defensive, and the warm, conversational atmosphere turns prickly and competitive. Now, replay the scene with the Stoic response. Your uncle says, "That was such a great performance by Tom Hanks." You feel the correction forming on your lips, but you pause. You apply the dichotomy of control. Is his belief about a years-old movie casting within my control? No. Is correcting him essential for my virtue or my peace? No, in fact, correcting him will likely disrupt the harmony of the moment. So you simply smile and nod, or you say, "It was a fantastic film, wasn't it?" You have chosen connection over correction. The conversation flows smoothly onward. The pleasant atmosphere is preserved, and you are left with a quiet sense of mastery, knowing that you just won a much more important victory, the victory over your own compulsive need to be right. Now take a moment to turn this lens inward. Cast your mind back to the last few days and find one small, insignificant instance where you felt that strong, compelling urge to prove you were right. Maybe it was a discussion with a partner about the quickest route to take to the grocery store. Perhaps it was a chat with a coworker about the exact date of a past meeting. It could have been a comment on a social media post about a trivial piece of pop culture trivia. Replay that moment in your mind. Feel the tension that arose in your body, the mental focus that sharpened as you prepared your evidence, the slight elevation in your tone as you made your point. Now, I want you to imagine an alternate ending. Imagine yourself taking a slow, quiet breath right in the middle of that impulse. Imagine consciously deciding to let it go. You don't argue, you don't correct, you might even say, you know you could be right, or simply change the subject. As you visualize this, pay close attention to the feeling that follows. Does a sense of lightness replace the tension? Does a calm spaciousness open up where there was once mental clutter and friction? This simple act of imagination is the first step in retraining a deeply ingrained habit. It shows your nervous system that there is another, more peaceful way to exist in the world, one where your sense of self is not tied to winning every minor skirmish, but is anchored in the unshakable confidence that comes from choosing your peace again and again. Our body communicates a powerful story long before we ever utter a word. It broadcasts our inner state to the world through 1,000 subtle signals: a slumped shoulder, a tapping foot, a shallow breath, a darting gaze. These physical tells can betray anxiety, uncertainty, or a mind racing with scattered thoughts, undermining our words before we even speak them. But here is the empowering Stoic truth. Just as our body reveals our mind, we can use our body to steady our mind. We can consciously train our physical presence to project an aura of calm composure, not as a deceptive performance, but as an external reflection of the inner tranquility we are actively cultivating. This is about aligning your animal nature with your rational mind, creating a feedback loop where a calm body helps foster a calm mind, which in turn sustains a calm body. The Stoics called this state apatheia, not a cold apathy, but a state of freedom from the destructive, overwhelming passions that throw us off balance. A calm exterior in this philosophy is not a mask you put on. It is the natural, radiating result of a mind that has practiced returning to its own peaceful center. Marcus Aurelius, who constantly had to project authority and stability as emperor, understood this intimate connection perfectly. He wrote in his private meditations, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." Think about the profound implications of that statement. Your inner world, your judgments, your perceptions, your self-talk literally tints your entire being. It seeps into your posture, sets the rhythm of your breath, and etches itself onto your face. He continues, advising himself to ensure that his thoughts are such as those of a man who is eager to be of a certain character, and that his soul should be ready and prepared to be separated from the body. This preparation wasn't morbid. It was about achieving such a state of self-possession that no external event could forcibly separate his mind from its virtuous anchor. He knew that a calm mind, focused on its duty and virtue, would inevitably express itself through a calm countenance and a steady physical presence. Your body, in the Stoic view, is the visible counterpart of your invisible faculty of judgment, and by training one, you inevitably train the other. Consider the palpable difference in a room when two different types of leaders enter. The first leader bursts in, their movements quick and jerky, their eyes scanning the room rapidly, their speech a bit rushed. They might be highly competent, but their physical presence broadcasts a subtle undercurrent of anxiety and urgency. This energy is contagious. It can put others on edge, making the entire environment feel slightly frantic and uncertain. Now picture the second leader. They enter the room with a measured pace. Their posture is upright but relaxed, their shoulders are down and back, and their breathing appears slow and deep. They make deliberate eye contact, and when they speak, their voice is grounded and resonant. They don't need to announce their authority. It is communicated through their sheer physical poise. This calm, centered presence has an immediate and powerful effect on everyone around them. It signals control, capability, and safety. It tells people, without a word, that the person in front of them is not easily knocked off balance, that they can handle pressure, and that they are fully present in the moment. This isn't about being slow or unenthusiastic. It is about being rooted, like a deeply anchored ship that remains steady even as the waves crash around it. To begin integrating this powerful practice into your own life, I want you to try a simple 1-minute exercise right where you are. For just 60 seconds, I want you to sit or stand with the posture of someone who is completely and utterly unshakable. Imagine a figure of immense, quiet confidence, a seasoned ship's captain in a storm, a wise elder, a master martial artist poised and ready. Now physically embody that. If you're sitting, plant your feet firmly on the floor, lengthen your spine, and relax your shoulders down and away from your ears. Rest your hands comfortably. If you're standing, find a balanced, grounded stance. Soften your gaze and take a slow, deep breath into your belly, and then release it even more slowly. Hold this posture for 1 full minute. As you do, pay close attention to the subtle shifts in your mental state. Do you feel a greater sense of control? Does the chatter of your mind quiet down just a little? Does a feeling of solidity and presence replace any scattered anxiety? This is not just imagination. You are physically triggering a state of psychological composure. Your body is telling your nervous system that all is well, that you are safe and in command. By practicing this simple act of physical alignment, you are not just pretending to be confident. You are actively building the neural pathways of calm composure, training your entire being to reflect the unshakable character you are cultivating within. How often have you found yourself behind a slow driver in the fast lane, immediately muttering under your breath about their incompetence or sheer selfishness? Or perhaps a coworker snaps at you in a meeting, and you instantly label them as rude or arrogant, carrying that simmering resentment for the rest of the day. This automatic, almost reflexive act of judgment is our mind's default setting, a rapid-fire assessment of the world designed to create a sense of order and control. But the Stoics invite us to challenge this very impulse, to insert a crucial pause between our initial impression and our final verdict. This is the discipline of withholding judgment, and it is not about becoming indifferent or naive. It is an active, rigorous practice of humility and empathy that protects our own peace and grants us a far more accurate understanding of the world. This practice is at its core a profound exercise in recognizing the severe limits of our own knowledge. When we judge someone, we are essentially taking a tiny, two-dimensional snapshot of their incredibly complex, three-dimensional life and declaring that we understand the entire picture. We see the action, the sharp tone, the missed deadline, the careless mistake, but we are completely blind to the entire movie that led up to that single frame. What unseen battles are they fighting? What private grief, what financial pressure, what sleepless night with a sick child is informing their behavior in this moment? The Stoic approach asks us to replace our certainty with curiosity, to swap our judgment for a simple, powerful question. I wonder what is happening for them that would lead to this action. This shift does not excuse harmful behavior, but it fundamentally changes our relationship to it. We move from being a judge, jury, and executioner to being an investigator seeking to understand cause and effect, which is the only position from which we can ever respond with true wisdom. Marcus Aurelius provided the ultimate mantra for this discipline, a line worth writing down and revisiting daily. Everything we hear is an opinion, not a fact. Everything we see is a perspective, not the truth. Let that sink in. The story you're telling yourself about the slow driver or the snippy colleague is just that, a story. It is a narrative woven from your own biases, your past experiences, your current mood, and a minuscule fraction of the available data. It is not the objective truth of the situation. When you internalize this, you realize that your snap judgments are often less about the other person and more about your own internal state. Judging others can be a convenient way to project our own insecurities outward. When we feel impatient, we label others as slow. When we feel insecure, we label others as arrogant. It is a way of disowning uncomfortable feelings within ourselves by attributing them to someone else. By withholding judgment, you are not just being generous to them, you are being honest with yourself, reclaiming those projected parts and taking responsibility for your own emotional landscape. Consider a practical application that will be familiar to anyone who works in an office. You send a straightforward email to a colleague, Sarah, asking for a piece of information you need to complete a report. Hours pass with no reply. The next day, you see her in the kitchen, and she seems to deliberately avoid making eye contact. The automatic judgment is immediate and damning. She's ignoring me. She's being uncooperative and passive-aggressive. She doesn't respect my work. This narrative, fueled by your frustration, begins to color all your future interactions with her. Now apply the Stoic discipline, withhold the judgment. Instead of cementing that story in your mind, you consciously choose a different path. You consider the possibilities that have nothing to do with you. Perhaps she is dealing with a family emergency that has consumed all her focus. Maybe she's received crushing news and is operating in a fog of grief. It could be that she's overwhelmed with her own deadlines and your email simply got buried, and her avoidance in the kitchen is born from shame, not malice. By suspending your verdict, you preserve your own peace, you avoid the spiral of resentment and frustration. And then, when you do approach her, you can do so with genuine curiosity instead of accusation. "Hey Sarah, I just wanted to check in on that data request when you have a moment. Is everything okay? You seemed a bit preoccupied." This open-ended question, born from a place of non-judgment, has the power to reveal the true story, foster connection, and solve the problem, whereas the judgmental approach would have only created more distance and conflict. To truly feel the transformative power of this practice, I want to offer you a challenging but profoundly enlightening experiment. For just one full day, I want you to make a conscious effort to describe people's actions to yourself without attaching a single positive or negative label. This is harder than it sounds. When someone cuts you off in traffic, instead of thinking, "Jerk," simply observe, "A blue car moved into my lane very closely." When a coworker dominates a meeting, instead of labeling them arrogant, note, they are speaking for a majority of the meeting time. When a family member makes a mess, instead of "they're so lazy," describe, "the dishes were left in the sink." This exercise forces your brain out of the lazy, automatic habit of categorization and into the more demanding but infinitely more accurate practice of pure observation. You will quickly realize how much of your mental energy is consumed by this constant, unconscious judging. As you strip away the labels, you strip away the emotional charge that comes with them. The world becomes a series of neutral events to be understood, rather than personal attacks to be defended against. This single day of practiced observation can open a doorway to a more peaceful, more empathetic, and truly more confident way of moving through the social world, where you are no longer a prisoner of your own hastily formed opinions. What if you could inoculate yourself against social anxiety? Much like a vaccine introduces a tiny, manageable dose of a virus to build your immunity. This is the powerful, proactive logic behind one of the most transformative Stoic practices, the deliberate pursuit of voluntary discomfort. We spend so much of our lives building cushions against unease, the perfect temperature, the most comfortable chair, the avoidance of any conversation that might feel awkward. But in doing so, we make our comfort zone so small and fragile that the slightest social chill can feel paralyzing. The Stoics, however, understood a fundamental truth about the human spirit. Resilience is not born in ease and safety, but forged in the voluntary embrace of difficulty. By periodically and willingly stepping into minor hardships or social inconveniences, you are not punishing yourself. You are conducting a series of crucial experiments that prove to your deepest self that you are far more capable, far more durable than your fears have led you to believe. You are building a reference library of evidence that you can handle awkwardness, that you can survive rejection, and that you can endure minor physical hardship, and in doing so, you systematically dismantle the power that social anxiety holds over you. This practice is deeply rooted in the Stoic and Cynic traditions, where philosophers viewed comfort not as a goal, but as a potential trap. They believed that a life devoted to avoiding discomfort was a life of slavery to external circumstances. To be truly free, one had to become indifferent to the very things that most people fear. Musonius Rufus, a revered Stoic teacher, argued powerfully that hardship was not the enemy of a good life, but its essential training ground. He taught, how indeed can a person develop self-control if he is only familiar with comfort and never with desire? How can he develop courage if he is unacquainted with danger? How can he develop endurance if he never faces hardship? His point was stunningly practical. Virtue is a muscle, and muscles only grow when they are stressed. You cannot develop the courage to speak up in a meeting if you have never practiced facing the minor fear of starting a conversation with a stranger. You cannot build the endurance to handle social rejection if you have never voluntarily placed yourself in a situation where a no was a possible outcome. By choosing small, manageable doses of discomfort, you are not seeking misery. You are engaging in a targeted workout for your character, strengthening your social and emotional resilience so that when life inevitably brings its larger, uninvited challenges, you are already in shape to meet them with steadiness and poise. Let's translate this ancient wisdom into tangible actions you can take today, starting with the social sphere. One of the most accessible and powerful exercises is to intentionally spend time alone in a public space, fully present and without the shield of a phone or a book. Go to a cafe and simply sit there for 30 minutes, drinking your coffee and observing the world around you. Do not retreat into your digital device. At first, this may feel intensely awkward. You might feel exposed, as if everyone is looking at you and wondering why you're alone. This is the exact feeling you are learning to tolerate and eventually transcend. As you sit through it, you will discover a profound truth. The awkwardness is a temporary sensation, a wave of mental discomfort that crests and then passes. The world does not end. No one actually cares. You are simply practicing the art of being comfortably alone with yourself in a crowd, which is a cornerstone of genuine social confidence, the confidence that doesn't need constant external validation or distraction to feel okay. Another potent practice is the simple act of starting a conversation with a stranger. This doesn't need to be a grand, deep interaction. It can be as simple as complimenting the barista's earrings and asking where they got them, or commenting on the book the person next to you on the train is reading. The goal is not to have a life-changing chat or to make a new best friend. The goal is to practice initiating contact and to become comfortable with the entire spectrum of possible outcomes, from a warm, engaging response to a polite but brief acknowledgement or even outright indifference. Each time you do this, you are collecting data that proves your survival. A warm response is a pleasant bonus. A neutral or cool response is perhaps the most valuable data point of all, because it teaches you that rejection, in its mildest form, is not a catastrophe. It is a neutral event that you can handle without your sense of self-worth crumbling. You are proving to yourself that your value is not contingent on every single social bid being successful. And we can even extend this principle beyond the purely social into the physical realm, as the Stoics often did. Something as simple as taking a cold shower for the final 30 seconds of your morning routine is a masterclass in voluntary discomfort. When you stand under that cold water, your entire body and mind scream in protest. Every instinct tells you to escape, to return to the warmth and comfort you just left. But when you consciously choose to stay, to breathe through the shock, to observe the sensation without being ruled by the impulse to flee, you are practicing a meta skill that applies directly to social anxiety. You are learning that you can feel intense discomfort, the physiological cousin of social panic, and not only survive it, but emerge on the other side feeling energized, clear-headed, and powerful. You have demonstrated to yourself in a visceral, undeniable way that you are the master of your reactions. This physical proof then becomes a psychological resource you can draw upon the next time you feel the cold splash of social fear. You can remind yourself, I have endured the shock of cold water and remained calm. I can certainly endure the temporary discomfort of walking into a room full of strangers. To make this a living, breathing part of your own journey toward unshakable confidence, your task is to move from theory to practice right now. I want you to choose one single, small, voluntary discomfort you can undertake within the next 7 days. Do not start with the most intimidating challenge you can imagine. The goal is success and the building of momentum, not heroic self-punishment. Your chosen discomfort should be something that makes you slightly nervous but is still achievable. Perhaps it is the cafe visit we discussed. Maybe it is turning off all screens for one full evening and sitting with the quiet. It could be choosing to ask a question in a meeting where you would normally stay silent, or volunteering for a small task that puts you slightly outside your usual role. The specific action matters less than the conscious intention behind it. Decide what it will be, and then, most importantly, schedule it. Write it in your calendar. By making a specific commitment, you transform a vague idea into a concrete plan for growth. This single, small act of courage is a direct investment in your social resilience. It is a brick laid in the foundation of your inner citadel, a personal experiment that will yield the most valuable result of all, the proven knowledge that you are stronger than your discomfort. In a world of constant notifications and divided attention, one of the most radical and powerful things you can offer another person has become incredibly rare: your complete and undivided focus. Think about the last time you felt truly listened to, not just heard, but listened to. The person you were with wasn't glancing at their phone, their eyes weren't scanning the room over your shoulder, and their mind wasn't clearly formulating their response while you were still speaking. They were just with you. That experience is so uncommon it can feel startling, even transformative. It communicates a level of respect and value that is more eloquent than any compliment. This is not a minor social nicety. It is the practical application of the Stoic virtue of justice in its most immediate form. The Stoics believed that justice is about giving each person and each thing what it is due. In the context of a conversation, what is due to the human being in front of you is your full attention. They are owed your presence. When you withhold that, when you split your focus between the person and your device or your own wandering thoughts, you are, in a small but real way, being unjust. You are not giving them what they are rightfully owed in that moment of shared humanity. This practice is also a profound discipline of anchoring yourself in the only reality you ever truly have, the present moment. The past is a memory, the future is a projection, but the here and now is the only arena where life is actually happening, and it is the only thing that is fully within your sphere of control. When your mind is hijacked by regrets about yesterday or anxieties about tomorrow, you have abandoned your post. You have left the one place where you can actually exert influence and live virtuously. Giving someone your singular focus is a powerful way to tether yourself to that present reality. It forces you to let go of the myriad distractions and attend to the one thing right in front of you: the person, the conversation, the shared space between you. This is not passive, it is an active, demanding exercise in concentration. You are training your mind like a muscle to resist the pull of distraction and to remain fixed on the task at hand, which in this case is the sacred task of connecting with another conscious being. Seneca, with his piercing insight into how we squander our most precious resource, offered a stark warning about the cost of a distracted life. He wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." Life is long enough, and it has been given in sufficiently generous measure to allow the accomplishment of the very greatest things if the whole of it is well invested. But then he goes further, identifying the true enemy of a well-invested life. But when it is wasted in heedless luxury and spent on no good activity, we are forced at last by death's final constraint to realize that it has passed away before we knew it was passing. So it is, we are not given a short life, but we make it short, and we are not ill-supplied but wasteful of it. When you are physically with someone but mentally elsewhere, you are engaging in precisely this kind of waste. You are spending the irreplaceable currency of your attention, which is the very substance of your life, on nothing. You are, as Seneca might say, living a form of death, because to be alive is to be aware and engaged, not scattered and absent. The tangible impact of this singular focus is nothing short of magical. Picture this: you are having a one-on-one coffee with a friend. The standard modern script involves phones on the table, occasional glances at the screen, and a conversation that proceeds in fits and starts. Now rewrite the script. Before they arrive, you decide that for this 1 hour, your phone will be out of sight, either in your bag or your pocket. When your friend sits down, you consciously settle into your chair, you make soft but steady eye contact, and you truly listen. You aren't just waiting for your turn to talk. You are following the thread of their story. You are noticing the micro-expressions on their face. You are hearing the emotion behind their words. You will notice something remarkable begin to happen. The person across from you will subtly relax. They will feel the safety of your undivided attention. They will start to speak more freely, more deeply. They will unfold like a flower opening to the sun. The conversation will move beyond the superficial weather and current events and into the territory of what truly matters to them. Their hopes, their fears, a challenge they're facing. You are not doing anything other than being present, yet you have created a container of trust that allows for genuine connection to flourish. The other person leaves the interaction feeling truly seen and heard, a feeling so rare in the modern world that it forges a bond of loyalty and appreciation far stronger than any transactional exchange of favors. This power, however, isn't just a gift you give to the other person. It is a profound gift you give to yourself. When you are fully focused on a conversation, a curious thing happens to your own social anxiety. The relentless internal monologue, what do they think of me? What should I say next? Do I sound intelligent? Begins to quiet down. Your attention is no longer turned inward, scrutinizing your own performance. It is turned outward toward understanding and connecting. In that shift, you find a natural, unforced confidence. You are no longer trying to be interesting. You have become genuinely interested, and that is the most interesting quality of all. Your presence becomes a calm, steady force in the interaction because you are not fractured. You are whole. You are entirely in the room, and people are instinctively drawn to that wholeness. It signals that you are secure, that you are not desperate for validation from the next notification or the next person who walks by, and that security is the bedrock of true social influence. To experience this transformative power for yourself, I invite you to undertake a simple but profound experiment. In your very next conversation, whether it's with a colleague, a family member, or the person serving you at a coffee shop, make a conscious decision to practice singular focus. Before the interaction begins, take a breath and set a clear intention. For the next few minutes, my only job is to listen and be here. If you're holding your phone, put it away. Make a point to maintain gentle eye contact when your mind inevitably wanders, and it will gently guide it back to the person speaking without judging yourself. Notice the words they use, the tone of their voice, the expression in their eyes. Do not interrupt, just listen. After the conversation, take a moment to reflect on two things. First, how did this focused presence affect the other person? Did they become more engaged? Did the conversation feel different? And second, how did it affect you? Did you feel more calm, more connected, less anxious about what to say next? This single practice, more than almost any other, has the power to instantly elevate the quality of your interactions and transform your sense of self within them, moving you from a performer on a stage to a fully engaged participant in the rich, unfolding drama of human connection. What if we've been measuring our social success with the wrong ruler entirely? When you tell a joke that's met with an awkward silence, or you try to start a conversation that fizzles out after a few painful sentences, what's the immediate story you tell yourself? Most of us default to a simple, brutal narrative. I failed. I'm awkward. I'm not good enough. But what if that single, judgmental label is the very thing that's holding you back from ever improving? The Stoic path offers a radical reinterpretation of these moments, one that removes the sting of shame and replaces it with the cool, clear lens of a scientist. It invites you to see every social misstep, every rejection, and every moment of awkwardness not as a failure but as feedback. These are not verdicts on your character. They are neutral data points, providing you with the essential information you need to learn, adapt, and refine your approach. The event itself is just an outcome. The meaning you assign to it, that is where your power lies. This powerful reframe is a direct application of the core Stoic belief that obstacles are, in fact, opportunities in disguise. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius, who faced immense political and personal challenges, embedded this principle into his very worldview when he wrote, "The obstacle in the path becomes the path." Let that idea settle for a moment. He isn't just saying we should endure obstacles. He's saying we should actively use them to let them shape and direct our journey. Now apply this to social anxiety. That awkward silence after your joke isn't a wall blocking your path to social confidence. It is the path. It is the very terrain you must walk to learn the art of timing and audience awareness. That fizzled conversation isn't a sign to give up. It's a data-rich lesson in the importance of open-ended questions or finding mutual interests. When you stop seeing these moments as personal indictments and start viewing them as the necessary feedback loops of social learning, you transform your entire experience. You are no longer a victim of your perceived failures, but an active, curious participant in your own growth, collecting data with each interaction to become more skilled and more resilient. Think of it this way: a scientist running an experiment doesn't throw their hands up in despair and declare themselves a horrible scientist when a hypothesis is proven wrong. On the contrary, a failed experiment is often the most valuable one because it provides crucial information that leads to a new, better hypothesis. The failure is the feedback that guides the entire process of discovery. Your social life is no different. Every interaction is a small, living experiment. You are testing approaches, reading responses, and gathering data on human connection. The goal is not to get every single experiment right. The goal is to learn from every single outcome. An awkward moment, then, is not evidence that you are broken. It is evidence that your current approach for that particular context needs a slight adjustment. It's an invitation to practice the Stoic virtues of courage by getting back out there, and humility by accepting that you are a perpetual student in the art of human relations. Let's make this concrete with a scenario almost everyone can relate to. You're at a casual work gathering, and you decide to break the ice with what you think is a witty, light-hearted joke. You deliver the line, and instead of the warm laughter you anticipated, you're met with a few polite, strained smiles and a sudden, heavy silence that seems to swallow the room whole. The old, automatic response is one of sheer internal panic. Your face flushes, your mind screams, "Abort mission." And you spend the rest of the evening replaying the moment, convinced you've become the office weirdo. Now apply the Stoic reframe. The moment the silence lands, instead of descending into self-judgment, you take a quiet mental step back. You become the scientist reviewing the data. The data point is, joke X delivered in context Y resulted in response Z's silence. Now you analyze the data without personalizing it. What were the possible variables? Perhaps the topic was a little too edgy for a work function. Maybe the delivery was slightly off, or the group was already in a more serious conversational flow. The feedback isn't "you are unfunny." The feedback is, in this specific setting with this particular audience, that type of humor did not land. This is invaluable information. It teaches you to read the room more carefully. It encourages you to test different types of opening lines. It's a lesson in social calibration, and you just learned it without any real cost other than a few seconds of discomfort. The next time, you might lead with a genuine question about someone's project and find the conversation flows effortlessly. That subsequent success was made possible by the data gathered from the previous so-called failure. To truly integrate this transformative mindset, I want you to try a brief but powerful exercise in reauthoring your personal history. Cast your mind back to your most recent social flub, that moment you've likely replayed with a cringe. It might have been a conversation that ended abruptly, a comment that was misinterpreted, or a time you felt you talked too much. Now, I want you to take out a pen and paper or open a note on your phone, and I want you to write down one single, concrete lesson you can take from that event. Do not write a judgment. Do not write, "I am too loud." Instead, write a specific, actionable piece of feedback. For example, when I notice I'm speaking for more than 2 minutes without a break, I will pause and ask the other person a direct question to bring them into the conversation. Or, when discussing divisive topics with new acquaintances, I will lead with curiosity about their view rather than stating my own opinion first. See the profound difference. You are no longer labeling an event as a permanent stain on your identity. You are extracting a piece of wisdom from it. You are turning the obstacle into the path. By doing this, you accomplish two things. You drain the past event of its lingering power to shame you, and you equip yourself with a practical tool for a better future outcome. This is how you build a confidence that is not based on a perfect record, but on the unshakable knowledge that you are always learning. The ultimate source of social confidence is not found in not caring what people think, but in caring so deeply about what is right that the opinions of others simply lose their gravitational pull on your actions. This is the culmination of all Stoic practice, the point where the 20 previous behaviors converge into a single, unshakable stance, living by an internal moral code. This isn't about being stubborn or self-righteous. It is about aligning your will with what the Stoics called universal reason and virtue, making your own character the final arbiter of your choices, rather than the shifting winds of social approval or disapproval. When you have a clear, principled understanding of who you are and what you stand for, you carry an internal compass that guides you through any social storm. You no longer have to constantly check the social weather vane to see which way the wind is blowing, because you are navigating by the fixed stars of your own virtues. This creates a presence that is both calm and formidable, because people sense that you cannot be easily manipulated by flattery, intimidated by criticism, or pressured into conformity. Your confidence is no longer a performance for an audience. It is the natural radiation of a self-governing soul. Epictetus, in his Enchiridion, provided what might be the most empowering description of this state. He wrote, "If anyone tells you that a certain person speaks ill of you, do not make excuses about what is said of you, but answer, 'He was ignorant of my other faults, else he would not have mentioned these alone.'" This is more than just a clever retort. It is the mindset of someone who has fully internalized their own moral scorecard. But he goes even further to the very heart of the matter, stating, "Remember that it is not he who gives abuse or blows who affronts, but the view we take of these things as insulting. When, therefore, anyone provokes you, be assured that it is your own opinion which provokes you." And then he delivers the ultimate conclusion. If a person gave your body to any stranger he met on his way, you would certainly be angry. And do you feel no shame in handing over your own mind to be confused and mystified by anyone who happens to verbally attack you? This is the core of it. When you know who you are, you do not hand over the keys to your mind to every passerby with an opinion. You remain the sole proprietor of your inner citadel, and from that position of sovereignty, neither insults nor flattery can breach the walls. They become nothing more than external noises that you can choose to acknowledge or ignore, but which hold no power to define you. Consider a scenario that tests this principle in the modern workplace. You're in a break room with a group of colleagues you generally like and get along with. The conversation turns to a coworker who isn't present, and it quickly descends into gossip. Someone shares an unverified rumor, another adds a mocking comment about their work style, and the group dynamic creates a pressure to join in, to be part of the in crowd by contributing your own piece of criticism or laughter. The desire for social bonding and acceptance is a powerful instinct, but you have a pre-established internal code, a principle that might be as simple as, I will not speak about others in a way that I would not speak to them directly, or I value integrity over social convenience. In that moment, you don't need to launch into a moral lecture that would alienate everyone. The power lies in your quiet, non-participatory presence. You might simply not laugh, maintaining a neutral but pleasant expression. You could take a sip of your coffee and then gently steer the conversation in a different direction by asking a completely unrelated question like, has anyone seen that new documentary everyone's talking about? Or how is everyone's big project going? Your refusal to participate, grounded in your internal code, speaks volumes without a single word of confrontation. It demonstrates a strength of character that is far more impressive and ultimately more influential than going along with the crowd. You may feel a temporary pang of social awkwardness, but it is eclipsed by the deep, lasting satisfaction of having remained true to yourself. Others will notice, and your reputation will be built on substance, not on gossip. This principle extends to far weightier matters as well. Imagine you're in a sales-driven environment where there's immense pressure to hit quarterly targets. A senior colleague pulls you aside and suggests a way to fudge the numbers just slightly, to present the data in a creative way that borders on deception, assuring you that everyone does it and it's just how the game is played. The external pressures are enormous. The desire for your boss's approval, the fear of being seen as not a team player, the potential financial bonus, the anxiety of being passed over for promotion if you don't go along. This is where a vague sense of being a good person is not enough. You need a clearly defined line. If your internal code includes a principle like, I will be honest in all my professional dealings, even when it is difficult, the decision, while not easy, becomes clear. You don't have to wrestle with the pros and cons in the moment. Your code has already done the wrestling for you. You can calmly and respectfully decline, saying something like, I appreciate you trusting me with that, but I have to operate in a way that lets me sleep at night, and for me, that means being completely transparent with the data. This kind of response, rooted in a personal principle rather than judgment of others, is far harder to argue against. It demonstrates a level of self-respect and integrity that can earn you respect, even from those who initially pressured you. It proves that your confidence is not for sale. To make this foundational behavior your own, the work begins not in the moment of pressure, but in the quiet of your own reflection. The Stoics were relentless about this kind of self-examination. So now, I present you with a challenge that can crystallize everything we've discussed. Take a moment, pause this video if you need to, and define, in one single, clear sentence, the core principle that you will not compromise in your social interactions. This is not a list of 10 rules. It is the one non-negotiable bedrock upon which you will build your social presence. It could be a version of the golden rule. I will treat everyone with the same respect I wish to receive. It could be a commitment to authenticity. I will always speak my truth with kindness, even when it is uncomfortable. It could be a vow of personal integrity. My word is my bond, and I will only make promises I can keep. Whatever you choose, it must be a principle that resonates so deeply with you that violating it would feel like a betrayal of your own soul. Write this sentence down. Keep it somewhere you can see it. Let this be the internal moral code that becomes the source of your unshakable social confidence, the quiet voice that reminds you who you are when the noise of the world grows loud. And so we arrive at the end of our exploration, not with a simple list of tricks, but with a profound shift in perspective. These 21 behaviors are not a checklist to be completed, but a symphony to be practiced. They are deeply interconnected, each one supporting and reinforcing the others. The intentional silence you cultivate is made possible by the observer's mindset, which is protected by your non-reactivity, which in turn is fueled by your radical acceptance of others. This isn't about assembling a social mask, it is about the slow, deliberate construction of an unshakable inner character. When your foundation is built on the bedrock of virtue, on courage, justice, wisdom, and self-discipline, the need to control external events and the opinions of others simply melts away. You stop trying to manage the reflections in the mirror and start polishing the substance of the object itself. The confidence and influence that follow are not something you pursue directly. They are the natural, magnetic byproducts of a soul that has come into alignment with itself. This brings us back to the core, liberating message of Stoicism, the thread that runs through every single behavior we've discussed. Our true power, the only real freedom we possess, lies not in controlling the world around us, but in mastering the world within us. It is found in our ability to govern our own judgments, to refine our desires so that they align with what is truly good, and to temper our aversions so that we are not thrown into turmoil by every minor inconvenience or slight. The person who has achieved this self-mastery walks into any room carrying a profound sense of peace because they know that no external event, no critical comment, no awkward silence, no social rejection can rob them of their inner equilibrium unless they themselves consent to it. Their influence is quiet but immense because it stems from a source that is incorruptible and self-sufficient. The Roman philosopher Seneca, who spent his life navigating the treacherous and often ridiculous world of imperial politics, arrived at a beautiful conclusion about the ultimate reward for this kind of life. He wrote, "True happiness is to enjoy the present without anxious dependence upon the future, not to amuse ourselves with either hopes or fears, but to rest satisfied with what we have, which is sufficient, for he that is so wants nothing." The greatest blessings of mankind are within us and within our reach. A wise man is content with his lot, whatever it may be, without wishing for what he has not. This is the tranquility that comes from living in agreement with nature and virtue. It is the quiet satisfaction of knowing that you are living by your own code, that your self-worth is not a variable dependent on the fickle winds of social fortune, and that you are, in each moment, enough. Of course, the prospect of integrating 21 new practices can feel overwhelming, but the Stoic path has always been one of incremental, consistent progress. You do not need to tackle them all at once. In fact, you should not. The most effective way to begin is to start small. As you reflect on everything we've covered, I encourage you to choose just one, or perhaps two, of these behaviors that resonate most deeply with the specific social challenges you are facing right now. Maybe it's the discipline of withholding judgment, which would immediately lower the temperature in your interactions with a difficult colleague. Perhaps it's the practice of purposeful vulnerability, which could transform your leadership style or deepen a personal relationship. It might be as simple as committing to the singular focus of putting your phone away during your next conversation. Pick one, and for the coming week, make it your sacred practice. Observe yourself, notice the moments you succeed and the moments you falter, and do so without self-judgment, simply collecting data. This focused, mindful application is how these philosophical principles become lived reality, how they slowly rewire your instincts and build that resilient inner core. As we conclude, I want to leave you with a final invitation for reflection. Look back over these 21 overlooked behaviors. Which one, more than any other, whispered to you? Which one felt like it addressed a specific tension or a hidden insecurity in your own life? Was it the idea of reframing failure as feedback, freeing you from the fear of social missteps? Or was it the power of cultivating an internal moral code, giving you a compass for moments of pressure? I would genuinely love to hear your thoughts. Share in the comments below which behavior resonates most with your current journey. Let's foster a community of practice, a modern Stoa where we can support each other in the ongoing work of building a confidence that is not loud but deep, an influence that is not forceful but magnetic, and a social life that is not a performance but an authentic expression of a character you are proud to call.